evening and thank you for joining us. My name is Waibi Mombogwa. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines. Fare thee well, the late Homabay Senator Otieno Kajwang's Requiem Mass. Mending the orange, which way forward for ODM, Professor Munene Macharia expounds. And in sports, Kenya Rugby Union names a 17-man Shujaa provisional squad. Welcome. Now, members of Parliament and the public gathered at the SDA Church in Nairobi for a requiem mass for the late Gerald Otieno Kajwang, better known by many as Mtu wa Mapambano. The body was later taken to Uhuru Park, where the public paid their final respect before the actual burial at his home in Homabay County this coming Saturday. Biko Rading has more.
Uhuru Park is well known for its political rallies. But this time, it welcomed Kenyans seeking to celebrate the life of the late Otieno Kajwang. The Homabay Senator passed on last week in what has been confirmed as a heart failure and will be laid to rest this Saturday. Mourners, including members of his family, political friend and everyday Kenyans, gathered to celebrate the life of a great leader.
Tumepoteza rafiki wetu na mimi nimemlia kama yule ambaye alinifundisha siasa, yeye na Mheshimiwa James Orengo, wakati sisi tulikuwa tuna support Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga na Michael kijana wa Malwa, sisi tukiwa vijana.
Led by CORD leader Raila Odinga, they celebrated the life of a man who has been described by many as jovial, open and an example to others.
Otieno Kajwang alikuwa ni mtu ana busara. Otieno Kajwang alikuwa ni mtu mpole. Otieno Kajwang alikuwa ni mtu mungwana. Otieno Kajwang alikuwa mtu ambaye anapenda watu na alipenda haki. Lakini zaidi ya haya alikuwa ni mtu mjasiri.
Na Kenya leader Martha Karua described Kajwang as a great lawyer.
Tumesoma University of Nairobi na Mheshimiwa Kajwang, tukafundishwa law na mliona alikuwa wakili shupavu, kisha yeye akaendelea na masomo Dar es Salaam kwa sababu alifukuzwa kwa kupigania haki za wanyonge.
Kajwang's brother and Roraka MP Tom Kajwang said that his family has lost an enterprising man. Governors, senators and MPs were represented at the ceremony. It is expected that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto will attend the funeral on Saturday. He was a man of the people. He stood for multi-party democracy in the country and even fought for social justice for all. But above all, he will be remembered for the iconic song Mapambano. Indeed, Otieno Kajwang might be gone, but his memory still lives in the hearts of many. Reporting for WTV News, I'm Rading Biko.
ODM is yet to put its house in order as the newly appointed party leaders say the list was forced upon them during the Naivasha meeting last Saturday. They also questioned the newly created positions, describing them as fictitious and unwarranted. Elijah Mwangi spoke to Professor Munene Macharia, a political analyst, on that matter.
The political fallout in ODM heightened 2 weeks ago with calls for the top party leadership to step down and allow fresh blood to steer it to the next elections. And following the meeting held in Naivasha last Saturday, a new list of party leaders was released. Party leader is Raila Odinga, chairman is John Badi, first deputy chair is Josephat Nanok, secretary general is Ababu Namwamba, First Deputy Secretary General is Elizabeth Ongoro. Organizing Secretary is Abdikadir Aden. The First Deputy Organizing Secretary is George Aladwa. And the person in charge of finance is Timothy Bosire. The proposed list of new officials in the Orange Democratic Movement ODM party has opened a new battlefront after some close allies of party leader Raila Odinga rejected it.
If they can now organize proper elections, so that those who are appointed to those places can officially be confirmed or officially be elected, it will help a lot. Right now, the picture is not good. It's almost going back to the days of President Moi, who used to appoint people mara moja. and they can also be fired mara moja, the same thing. So it is not a very good picture. But if they use this time, think of it as an interim arrangement. As long as it is an interim arrangement, then it makes sense.
Some party leaders have insisted that they would resist hand-picked names and preferred party members to elect their own officials through popular means.
So they should be allowed that freedom to decide who really should be the Secretary General. And if Ababu Namwamba is elected, then his position will be more solid than it is now. Right now it's very shaky.
We want the register brought here.
ODM party has had its fair share of challenges, and now all eyes are on the proposed new team to steer the party come the next general election.
Well, the expectation is that it will help to sort out the mess. It has a very big challenge because it has not been fully accepted by members of the ODM hierarchy. It also has a drawback of being an appointment by one man, saying this is the way things are going to be. There is no indication that it's what people wanted.
This comes as former Prime Minister Raila Odinga on Monday started meeting rebel MPs in his party in an attempt to end wrangles that threatened to tear ODM apart. Pundits argue democracy had and is cherished, and despite the seeming wrangles, who knows, a lasting solution could be in the offing. Reporting for WTV News, I'm Elijah Mwangi.
Now, that story brings us to our feedback question. Do you think Kenya has attained sufficient democratic space? Do you think Kenya has attained sufficient democratic space? Now, send us your thoughts on our SMS line on 20058, and we'll sample them and post them on our Facebook page, WTV Kenya. Rising insecurity cases in the country saw a section of civil society groups take to the streets to protest what they felt is failure by the government to deal with insecurity in the country following the death of 28 Kenyans in Mandera last Saturday. However, many are times when demonstrations happen in protest of dissatisfaction of certain issues. But just how effective are these protests? Here is more. Another recent case of insecurity, the Mandera massacre that robbed the lives of 28 young professionals, has left Kenyans wondering when the country will be terror-free. A section of civil society groups took to the streets Tuesday to protest against the rising cases of insecurity in the country, which according to them are barely acted upon. Often, the country has seen activists and sections of civil society groups protest against certain issues without bearing any fruits.
We just need to have answers, like proper answers and accountability from our government. That's all we would like.
What next after the protests? Will the government pay more attention to the concerns raised, or will the security docket remain a concern for Kenyans? Many have used the social media to protest the resignation or firing of the security chiefs, Inspector General David Kimayo and Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olelenku. On his Twitter account, Inspector General David Kimayo tweeted, "I commend some civil societies. Rather than adopting a confrontational approach, they've opted to engage us." And though some have come out strongly on social media to discredit the efforts made by the security chiefs, pundits feel otherwise. Political analyst Mutahi Ngunyi on his Twitter account said, and I quote, "Give Olelenku and Kimayo a break. Insecurity in Kenya is bigger than the two poor fellows. Read the patterns." However, on his Twitter handle, the president stated that during his official trip in Abu Dhabi, in his agenda was how to curb insecurity in the country. He said, and I quote, "I held talks with leaders from Jordan and United Arab Emirates on issues of security, combating terrorism and stemming radicalization. We discussed surveillance and other technologies UAE uses in ensuring security for what has become an important regional business hub." Reporting for WTV News, I'm Wairi Mbogwa. He is serving a life sentence at the Kamiti maximum prison, but he has not given up on his dream in his life to be a lawyer. In our segment, Victims to Victors, we bring you the life of Wilson Kinyua behind bars. Kinyua used to be a student at the Strathmore University and has been at Kamiti for 10 years, having been sentenced for robbery and violence. Elijah Mwangi has the story.
A human life is a story told by God, and no one knows what tomorrow holds. Today you may have the freedom, but then tomorrow that freedom is taken away from you. Now, Kamiti Maximum Prison remains to be one of the most feared prisons in the country. But despite all that, there are those prisoners that have decided to make a lemonade from the lemon that life has given them. We sought to find out whom they are and what they are doing behind bars.
When I came here, I was sentenced to death because it was a robbery with violence.
I was arrested, arraigned in court and charged and tried for a sexual offences under the Sexual Offences Act, and then I was later on convicted and sentenced to serve 21 years imprisonment.
I landed into prison with the case of murder. A charge of murder case of a friend, a close friend of mine, that in fact a workmate.
These are just but a few of the harrowing tales you are likely to get from inmates here at Kamiti Maximum Prison. Meet Wilson Kinyua. For the last 10 years, Kamiti has been his home. His life took a different turn when he found himself on the other side of the law a decade ago. What he describes as the lowest moment in his life.
It was my first time to be in a police station, let alone being in prison or in court. And the whole setup of the court was very intimidating. And here I am, pitted against a very qualified and experienced prosecutor to prosecute me on a charge of death sentence. The whole life became like, my world became like it has come to an end. So I would feel that was my lowest time. And now through the experience I've gone through the prison, that felt, okay, I'm in the bottom of the pit. The only opening is going up. So that's why I'm rebuilding myself. So that when I get that opportunity, I'll not be somebody who is hopeless.
A beacon of hope came when the death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. This made him to move from the so-called condemned to join other inmates in the academy.
Today, I'm in CPS Section 4. And last year, I got an opportunity. Again, I got a scholarship from University of London to do law. So as we speak, I'm in my second year. I'm doing law through the University of London International Law Program.
So what inspired Wilson to pursue law, and how does he intend to gain, bearing in mind that he's serving a life sentence in prison?
I realized from my case, there are things I felt I could, were not really adding up in terms of justice. So through the experience in the hearts of justices, and I felt there are things that need to be done with the justice system in Kenya. I've got also an application in court pursuing again, faulting the way the trial were conducted. And not me alone, but several others. We've teamed a group of inmates, like we are 12 of us, differently charged with different offenses, but suffering from a common problem.
Kinyua's story is not unique inside Kamiti Maximum Prison. About 12 inmates are undertaking paralegal studies in the academy, which is a collaborating center of University of London.
Currently, we have a total number of 250 students in the academy. Around 7 students are currently doing diploma in common law. We admitted another 7 in this semester, and currently the number totals to 13 students.
Members perform. Students are performing well. We have quite a number of students who have gone to the university level. We have some who are pursuing the master's degree here inside the prison. Those are our products.
British High Commission has funded the project to the tune of £30,000 and plans to roll out a similar project in other prisons across the country are underway.
The work of the industry team in the prison and the education team is vitally important for inmates, so that when they are inside they are learning, acquiring education and knowledge, and that we are reducing the risk of reoffending and rehabilitating the prisoners. Previously, the classrooms were very overcrowded and very cramped, and we have built this new classroom block with funds from the British High Commission with, I think there's about 6 new classrooms, so that the students have a place where they can learn and continue their studies.
Most of the inmates in this program are hopeful that one day they will be released through the power of mercy, and their message to the members of the public is crystal clear.
Ignorance of law is a calamity. I think I should use that.
Keep away from crime because crime doesn't pay.
My brothers, my sisters, my sons, daughters, that crime is not good.
Speaking to prisoners here at Kamiti Maximum Prison, something that is coming out strongly from them is that stone walls do not make a prison. They have decided to move on regardless of what happened to them. And as they put it, the ultimate measure of a man is not determined during times of joy and comfort, but rather during times of crisis and controversy. That's why as WTV, we decided to celebrate those that do constructive things behind bars. Reporting for WTV News, I'm Elijah Mwangi.
And in sports, the Kenya Rugby Union has named a 17-man provisional Shujaa team for the Confederation of Africa Rugby Tournament. Kenya Sevens will be taking place in Harare, Zimbabwe on the 29th of November 2014. The following report by Fabian Eston has more.
Taking on the favorites.
The Shujaa and Kenya squads that will do duty at this weekend's Confederation of African Rugby Sevens in Harare, as well as the forthcoming legs of the World Rugby Sevens Series in Dubai, were named today at the Kenya Rugby Union in Ngong Road. The players who will feature in the Shujaa squad include Martin Owila, Humphrey Mulama, Peter Kilonzo, Brian Omondi, Billy Isabwa, Charles Odhiambo, Jacob Ole, Philip Owor, Samuel Motari, Davis Chenge, Brian Wandera, Shabani Ahmed and coach Gibson Weru.
May not be as confident.
The squad will depart for Harare on Thursday 27th November at 9 a.m. local time. Meanwhile, the squad which will feature in the Sevens Series in Dubai and Port Elizabeth include Andrew Amonde, Oliver Mangeni, Bush Mwale, Patrice Agunda, Daniel Sikuta, Michael Wamalwa Wanjala, Samson Onsuma, Oscar Ayodi, Tony Onyango, Dennis Muhanji, Leonard Mugaisi, Alex Olaba and coach Paul True. The squad departs for Dubai Sunday 30th November at 11:45 p.m.
And that's all from our news desk. Thank you for joining us. My name is Wari Mombogwa. Have a good night.